I'm Caitlin, and I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my family and friends' reactions to telling them that I'm going to date somebody a lot older than me. One thing you need to know about my family is, fortunately, they are very open and understanding, but they are brutally honest, and we have talked about everything. So not telling them right off the bat what was going on with me was starting to chew me up inside. And apparently it was blatantly obvious that there was something going on between the two of us. So before I really delved into okay, I'm really gonna do this relationship, I kind of went through a phase where I'm like, I think I might be losing it. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I live in a small town in central Maine where I didn't know anybody with this kind of age gap, very sheltered, more cows than people. So I'm like, I'm the only one. So I literally was like, I don't even know what to do. So I decided, okay, I went to the Googles. I literally did. I Googled it. I was like, okay, age gap relationships, pros and cons, the whole 9 yards. And I found out, wow, okay, I am not the only one. I am not alone. So thankfully that really helped me to be like, okay, I can do this. Everything else is good. Let's do this. My mom's birthday party. They wanted the band to play, which sounds awesome in theory, but you gotta remember, at this point, Scott and I had been kind of dating under the radar for a couple of weeks. So we're like, okay, we had to make a game plan. We're gonna do it, but we need to make a game plan. We're gonna try to avoid each other. We can't be too chatty. We can't look at each other too much. Gotta play it cool. So the birthday came, we did it, everything went good, my family, friends, they were all there. Nobody said anything about the two of us. So I'm like, all right, success. So I call him up later that night, and I'm like, oh my God, we did so good today. Nobody said anything, there's no questions, everything is all good. And we mentally high-fived each other. He's like, yeah, I'm so proud of us, we were great. Little did we know, literally everybody at that party, people we didn't even know that saw us together, called my mom up afterwards and was like, so what's going on with Caitlin and Scott? A few days after the party, I finally couldn't avoid my mom any longer. We were sitting across the table from each other and I'm trying to pretend to read, but I'm sweating and hyperventilating inside because I know she's going to ask me. So finally she just looks at me. Like I said, my family, straight to the point. She looks at me and says, so, what's going on with you and Scott? And I'm literally like a deer in headlights. I'm like, you really want to know? She's like, yeah, I want to know. What's going on? And I mean, the fact that she already asked that, I knew she already kind of probably knew. So I finally just tell her, we are dating. I feel like I need to do this. I don't care if you don't want to see it. You don't want to be around it. It's okay. I understand, but I need to do this. I need to explore this. And once she heard me kind of say that, and she knew that I'd really put some thought into it and had, done my research, she knew that it was going to be okay, that she was okay with it. Whatever I want to do, she's understanding, and it's all good. And we proceeded to talk about it literally all day long. All day long. I just gushed like a 12-year-old girl. It was pretty bad. Now, I do have 2 older brothers. One of them lives out of state, so he's not around and doesn't see everything a whole lot. But we are very close. He's my best friend. And he had been at the birthday party. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I better probably call him and tell him. So I call him, and I finally get the nerve up to tell him yeah, Scott and I are dating. And, I think we're going to actually do this. First words are, okay. And I'm like, okay, I'm expecting some questions. And then my brother, God love him, he looks at me and goes, so you do realize he's older than our parents, right? So then we both kind of start chuckling, yeah, the picture does look a little strange. And then I'm like, yeah, I know. And at this point we're already kind of starting to giggle, and then we lost it when he goes, dude, he's older than our dad. And then that was it. He broke the ice, we're laughing, and then we just talked about it, and he was fine. Once everybody got to know him, they knew that he wasn't just using me, or it wasn't just a phase. We really did have a connection, and thankfully they'd already seen that, so it did kind of help a little bit. But yeah, it was definitely interesting at first. Telling one of my girlfriends was probably one of my favorite stories. So we went out to lunch, and I finally get the nerve to tell her that I'm dating somebody new. And she's all excited, woo, scandalous, awesome. And I'm like, yeah, he's quite a bit older than me. And she's like, well, how much older? Like, ooh. And I'm thinking, girl, if you only knew. So I'm like, quite a bit. And she's like, okay, well, like 10 years? And at this point, I couldn't even say anything because I'm like, I don't even know if I can say the number. And I'm just like, she goes, 20? And I'm like, and then she goes, 30? And that's when I'm like, and she's like, and then it dawned on her, because she'd come to see the band play. She'd seen us already interact. And she's like, it's somebody in the band, isn't it? And I went, yeah. I'm kind of like dating Scott, the lead singer. And she's like, yeah. And then, of course, she was obviously kind of like shocked that we were actually going to like legit date. But like I said, she'd already seen us. She'd already seen that we have a connection. So once that shock wore off and I started gushing like a schoolgirl, she was happy with it. She couldn't wait to like go on a double date with us and hang out with us. It was awesome. I'm like, oh my God. Literally everybody just encircled us with open arms. It was great. So I finally got to the place where I'd already told my friends and family, and I'm like, okay, I need to tell Scott that I Googled like this type of relationship, okay? I'm like, I know he's probably gonna laugh at me and be like, you're an idiot. So we're sitting on the couch one day, and I finally tell him, I'm like, okay, I have a confession to make. And he's like, you could tell by his look, shit's getting real. And I'm like, so, a couple of weeks ago, I kinda, like, Googled our relationship. And that's all I said. And then he just starts laughing. And I'm like, oh great, he thinks I'm a ding dong. Nope. He looks at me and he goes, I literally did the same exact thing a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, no, you didn't. Okay, this guy is in his mid-50s. He doesn't even know how to use a computer. He types like an old Pepe, okay? And I'm thinking, he Googled that? Like, what? And he's like, yeah, I Googled pros and cons. I looked up other people with this type of relationship. Like, he's like, yeah, I Googled all of it. And then we just started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Now, when I said I wanted somebody funny, I definitely hit the nail on the head with this one, because my husband is an absolute nut. He loves to be a goofball. I laugh probably 100 times a day at him. He's horrible with names. He makes up stuff all the time, and he cannot wait to be in these videos. So I will add in a small clip of him that I took a few weeks ago, just off the cuff, because it just gives you a small example of some of the things that just come out of him naturally every day.
I love you just the way that you are. I mean...
But you just said I'm near perfect.
Well, the only person in this world that has ever come that close to perfect is me. So how can I, I can't compare you to me because you don't have the same attachments.
True.
I mean, you could. It's a simple
I
operation
could.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snip, inside out, all that shit.
Yeah.
But no, okay, you're perfect to me.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely perfect.
I'm glad you clarified.
Well,
I was concerned that things were slipping.
I know my role after 60 years. I know what the fucking saying do, baby.
Now, I just want to end off by giving you another short example of how much of a goof my husband is. So we're laying in bed. This was, I don't even know, a year or two ago. And I'm like half asleep, and he says something to me, and I kind of like open my eyes. My head's on his shoulder, and I just kind of like look at him. And he's like, oh, you got big, pretty eyes. You look like a Rottweiler. I'm like, okay, that's not very flattering. Like, Rottweilers are big, beefy dogs. I wouldn't really call me a Rottweiler. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, do you know what a Rottweiler is? They're those huge dogs. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, you look like a Parmesan. I'm like, are you talking about a Pomeranian? He's like, no, isn't that cheese? Oh my God, seriously, people, you don't even know. Like, at this point, I'm just laughing at him because I can't even believe it. I'm like, no, Pomeranian is the little tiny cute dogs. Parmesan is the cheese. And he's like, oh, okay, well, you're a Pomeranian then. And at this point, we are just losing it. That's how bad he is with names. I'm telling you, it is a scene every single day. If you would like to know when my next video is going to be posted, just subscribe. It's free. It will let you know as soon as it's on there. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to write them below. I am an open book. I will answer just about anything. So let me know what you'd like to see, any questions you have. I'll do the best I can. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it and laughed as much as I do literally every single day. Thank you again for listening. Bye.